and thank you for joining today's seminar on WAN transformation for your enterprise. Why are we talking about this subject today? In today's hyper-competitive world, the ability of an enterprise to quickly and effectively react to the changing dynamics of the marketplace depends upon efficient, reliable, and agile connectivity. So whether it's collaboration or communication, employees and customers need quick and seamless access to resources and knowledge that will power business processes. However, for corporate IT leaders and infrastructure heads like you, the challenges of procuring, integrating, managing, and optimizing network and connectivity platforms are all too familiar and are often major hurdles to ensuring a seamless, secure, resilient, and high-performance corporate communication infrastructure. Today we have with us Daniel Alex, President, Telecom Business for Sify Technologies, who will explain why it is becoming an imperative to consider transforming your enterprise WAN, how to plan the transformation, and the ways to go about it. So I'd now like to request Alex to take over and make his presentation. Over to you, Alex.
Thank you, Giri. Thank you for that introduction. Good afternoon, all. My name is Daniel, and I head the telecom business for Sify Technologies. Let me very quickly start moving into the presentation and give you a brief of why we thought this topic would be of relevance to you all. The interesting part is, what we've been noticing of late with very many of our customers, and what we have seen a changing customer environment is what prompted us to, put together a practice called WAN Transformation, and then, we thought it should be, this would be a good platform for us to, share with you all in terms of what we have seen and what we go through as far as the enterprises are concerned. From there, if you see today, what an enterprise looks for is much heightened levels of performance on networks. We are talking about anywhere to anywhere connectivity with almost limitless boundaries. We talk about multiple services running on the same network, and a holistic management of all of this is what is the network evolved itself to be. So we thought that we will define this transformation to be the reason for the transformation is primarily because the networks are at a point of inflection where there are very diverse, disparate networking scenarios that calls for a collective way of looking at the moment. Okay, so this process of enabling the organization to transit from its widely disparate hybrid networks to an integrated cloud-enabled networking platform is what we call as network transformation or WAN transformation, and the approach to completely cloud-powered technology for drawing business benefits is what we are talking as the result of such a transformation. So when we started to look at what are the critical challenges that we are trying to address in during the course of this network or the WAN transformation here, is trying to see enterprises meeting the demand for a virtual workspace, the data center virtualization, collaborative communication, and business continuity. All of this falling part as a critical element and components part of the network today. Okay. Now, with this many diverse scenarios that is faced for an enterprise, what it does is, in terms of increase the operational complexity, involve multiple network providers on the network. This is very synonymous when it comes to a communication or data communication scenario which exceeds 100 sites, 200 sites, 1,000 sites, so on and so forth. You will see such situations in the manufacturing scenarios or in the banking and the insurance scenarios, where the enterprise was left with no option but to have multiple service providers on their network. Then you have hybrid networking scenarios, meaning you have an MPLS cloud Then you have a private network. You have VPNs over the internet, culminating into your enterprise for information, so on and so forth. And then, the frequent upgrades that it involves, the operational nightmare that it brings in because of the complexity it involves, and the biggest challenge being, managing technology obsolescence. All these are a resultant of the varying scenarios that an enterprise starts seeing today. I'm having shifting slides. Girila, can you just check? I'm sorry, I'm having a problem shifting slides.
Yeah, okay, it's shifted. Yeah.
Okay. So these network so these are the imperatives that are causing for the need for a change in the networking scenario. And we believe that these complex environments that have started emerging for an enterprise has resulted in multiple drivers which causes the need for a completely evolved or a network which requires transformation at the current stage. So what do we think that an enterprise today requires, and where do we think this would carry out as business benefits is what we have captured in this slide. Okay, we are talking about a non-converged voice data network which needs to be integrated. We need to see a scenario where the enterprise has got the complete flexibility of expanding its network as and when required, without the pressure of involving the capex and opex which are scaling significantly with the scale of network. We want a scenario that eliminates the risk of using dying technologies on the network, because technologies today change as quick as possible, and it is making it even more demanding for enterprises to adapt these technologies, continue to keep investing on the capex there. The risk attributed to the security gaps that arise due to such complex scenarios that are evolving, and the administrative challenges. We wanted to take all of this and see how we can actually convert that to a CIO benefit. So what we thought would be more appropriate for today's CIOs to look at is somebody who is able to offer them a unified SLA, which means the enterprise will have a technology partner whom they will work with, who will hold the entire SLA end to end, notwithstanding what scenarios that are involved in terms of the data communication that is required for the company. Okay, a company that can support them with operational efficiency and a completely optimized expense management. At the same time, a scenario where you don't have to shy to scale. Many business scenarios today are at a point when the scale of information technology or the IT services being rendered by their own teams are limiting many of the businesses from taking some giant strides. So that scalability should be addressed. And then a completely integrated network with service management and high performance coming out of a single person. Now, when we are able to achieve these benefits, then the wholesome derived benefit of that is the flexibility it gives an organization in terms of focusing on its own business as against trying to keep up to the pace of the technology shift and the technology change, so on and so forth. Okay. Now, I'm moving on to the next slide. Now, here is what I'm trying to say. Okay, what are we talking about? On to the left, you would see the current state of network. Many enterprises emulate or have scenarios like this. Let me try and draw an analogy with a manufacturing company, because pretty much it will fit the framework that we are talking here. Okay. initially the manufacturing companies had a model where they had their the factory running an ERP, and many of its branches, the regional office, getting connected. Then came the scenario, the factory or the manufacturing unit had to backward integrate into its supplier chain. So then the web-enabled applications came in, the IPsec VPNs came in, so there's an internet cloud that is operating. So that comes in from one end and starts accessing the network. As the time started evolving, the mobility, the sales force required information on time, so the mobility started playing a role. So this had a different scenario in terms of getting into the network. And then scenarios slightly changed when some of these companies had something to do with a company overseas, or they were otherwise an extension of an MNC running operations out here in India, and they had a need for accessing the global infrastructure. So either it was in form of an IPLC, or the IPLC then moved on to doing international MPLS, which was run completely independently. Now, if you look at the scenario, you're already talking about at least 2-3 service players and service environments already coming into play. The most interesting part is, very recently, things have started changing. And when a company started looking at, going beyond ERPs, beyond CRMs, today they are talking about several cloud-based applications which they need access for. Now, any of these cloud-based systems, if you look at today, beyond accessing them over the internet, the moment an enterprise starts looking at an enhanced performance on accessing the cloud systems, the cloud enablers are requesting enterprises to directly connect into them. So that brings up the third dimension as far as connectivity is concerned. Now, this is how the complex scenario continues to keep evolving and becomes even more complex. The security becomes a challenge. The integration of networks becomes a challenge. The challenge of handling multiple service providers, and ultimately, who is the one who provides a complete service management view of this entire communication infrastructure for the enterprise becomes a question. Now, it is from here we are talking about a transform stage. If you look at what we are talking about is an MPLS network where any kind of a scenario connects, whether it is the factory, the branch, the mobility user, the remote user, so on and so forth. But all of that is going through a very controlled environment and getting into, whether be into the service cloud, whether into a data center, or through internet. Now, in this scenario is where we are talking about a completely integrated network, which becomes a full-fledged, service-enabled, and almost getting to an outcome-based model in the future. So this is, I would also say that this could be the first step to moving through an outcome-based model, which may emerge in the future. Okay? So moving into the framework of what entails, or what makes the next-gen WAN. To achieve what we saw in the previous slide, what we are talking about is we need to have an anytime, anywhere access, a system that is scalable, the bandwidth, somebody managing bandwidth, the bandwidth, to have a view of the application, the intelligence that you can have around the application, which will enable you to do, optimization of applications, a completely integrated security, which becomes unified in such a case, because now you are integrating multiple scenarios under a single cloud, and you are now able to put a security framework which can be administered across all variables involved in a network, rather than being different. And then an uninterrupted communication by providing a high availability SLA-led service. Now, what is the approach that is required? What is the approach that is required for an enterprise to get into this mode? We are not talking about saying that, hey, listen, now that you have a very complex environment, let's strip it all and then, recreate it afresh. That is not going to be a possibility, right? So what one needs to look at is keeping the entire ecosystem live. Keeping this entire ecosystem live, how would you adapt to a scenario which will now give you all the flexibility that we have spoken of in a transformed network, at the same time provide a high availability and hassle-free so that the enterprise continue to operate or do its business in a much more focused manner rather than spending time out in terms of, trying to figure out how they build their communication infrastructure. So what is required in a scenario like this is a partner who can actually move the length and breadth of the communication framework, who can support you with this transformation. Now, I'm putting ourselves in this plane just to show you all as to how Sify can enable a scenario like this. Okay, so you would see the diagram on the right very clearly states different OEMs involved, multiple service providers involved, and Sify then would actually put a cover over this entire set of service providers who are there in the network and the OEMs, and would integrate, take charge of it, and then provide the enterprise and completely unified network on a full-fledged outsourced operational model if required, or as modules, and can deliver a complete SLA-driven, performance-enhanced communication infrastructure as far as the enterprise is concerned. So how do we do this? We normally go through a complete study of the current state of the network, try and study the SLA provided by each of the providers in the existing infrastructure, understand the application and security in the current state, and then take this to the drawing board and then start looking at what elements of the current network are actually functioning at an optimal level, what elements of the current network are not really functioning to the optimal level, and figure out how do you make those minor changes. With incorporating, it may incorporate Sify into it, or it may not incorporate Sify at all. But it will continue to look at how the ways of optimizing it, and then start putting a SLA framework which will be more holistic and deliver services based on the SLA that has been agreed with, and handle the complete contract migrations. Now, why would Sify want to do this? Okay. Now, are we talking about changing this the entire scenario? No, we are not talking about changing this entire scenario. What we are talking about is actually observing elements of network which is at a suboptimal level, and then trying to see how we can enhance. And the reason why we believe we can do, and we continue to do, we do these for some of our customers. I will take a use case in a little while that will give you a complete sense of what we are actually doing. The reason we believe that we can do is Sify today manages a very highly complex network in itself. So handling multiple service providers, SLAs, integrating SLAs of multiple service providers, and delivering a common unified SLA is not a challenge. We do this for our living. The network that we run has to run at high resiliency, high efficiency, and with the highest level of security, because we run multiple enterprises on our network. So we know what we are talking about, the security framework. this entire network is managed 24/7 because we are running a service provider's network. So we believe that we are good in what we are doing in terms of delivering the required SLA. Hence, we believe that we as an organization with the critical ingredients like the data center piece, the network consulting and transformation piece, the infrastructure, which is our own network infrastructure, the application application monitoring that we do for our own selves and for other customers. With all of these core ingredients being available with us, we believe that we can actually extend this to our customers in a much more efficient manner that a customer would appreciate. This is the governance model and the execution model that we have put in place. Okay. Starting from identifying the network assets, the carriers, handling the contract execution, the supplier management of the network, and going the whole 9 yards. If you look at taking care of the business as usual projects, service introductions for enterprises, elements of applications that are getting newly introduced, the service management, and going up till the entire stack up till the program management and mission control, and providing the governance model for the enterprises. This is the model that we have drawn out for ourselves. Now, just to share with you all, we do this as modules for very many customers, but to some we have done an integrated model, which is what we call to be the transformation service that we are offering today. I think I've spoken enough on why we believe that we can deliver what we are talking about. Now let me take a use case scenario, which will kind of explain to you very clearly what we are doing. I'm probably not in a position to name the company. It's a multinational. Partly FMCG company, for which we manage the entire network infrastructure, starting from managing their CPEs. So which means today the company, if it requires to expand its branch by, let's say, 2 more or 5 more, all that I need is an address from them, and then I go about building the network infrastructure out there. I place the CPE and integrate the branch into the network, and then all the customer compensates me is a monthly recurring charge. And this network that we run are built in such a fashion which runs voice over IP on the CUG, runs video frames, video conferencing for their in-house video conferencing requirements. And it is for video conferencing that we offer them, we support them with bandwidth on demand. So if you recall, I spoke about scalability. We allow them to scale their network and scale it down as they require. We have also provisioned a service cloud environment for them, where they actually access AWS's servers straight out of Dublin, which is again a connectivity enabled by us on a global MPLS. And there again, they have a completely scalable model that, as and when they have a scenario where they have got increased number of VMs that they use in the cloud scenario, they actually, they burst the bandwidth on that particular segment and then shrink it when they don't need. The entire security framework is actually built and managed by us. And finally, the entire SLA reporting and management of this network rests with us. Now, it is the same company that until some time back had And even, just to add, even in this scenario, though there are about 76 odd locations that we connect, Sify's infrastructure might be used in about, say, 44, 50 sites. There are still 20 odd sites that are, being built, run out of different service providers. So we manage the other service provider environments also into this network. Now, the same company until some time back was running with a multinational telecom operator for their, global MPLS, was dealing with 4 telecom operators on the domestic side. They had a network, integrator or the system integrator who was actually managing the CPE and the LAN WAN integration. And then they had one organization which was actually doing the service management and reporting alone, taking MIS and input from all of these elements and just doing service reporting. Today, all of that folds into one, and there is a single entity whom they rest with and make the SLAs responsible with one single entity, and that single entity now starts managing the entire infrastructure down the line, because the entity, which is Sify, we have the capability of handling varied OEM partners, starting from Cisco, Juniper, whoever you may want to engage with. The telecom infrastructure is available, the data center infrastructure is available, the security framework is available, so on and so forth. So this again is on Sify in terms of what we do. I thought very briefly I want to touch on what we do. We are today a company which is over a decade. We are listed in NASDAQ for over a decade now. We engage with over 3,500 enterprise customers in the country. Okay, we are a full-fledged national long-distance player, an ILD player, and we are also a cable landing partner in the country, as in we land 2 subsea cable systems with very strong international network assets. Okay, we have 6 POPs globally, which means we are very strategically poised that we can address any of the global requirements of enterprises. And actually, we have over 50,000 is the number of customer MPLS sites that is indicated, which is actually not 50,000. It today stands at 88,000. And the reason we have that 88,000 is because we have one single network that we manage and run. One of, it is a feather in the cap as far as, a network of highest complexity, the largest spread. It's, I think, we can very easily claim that it's the largest MPLS network in the globally, because it involves, 48,000 endpoints. Sorry, 38,000 endpoints. This is for the Department of Posts, which we manage, building 2 independent network, one through BSNL, the other through Sify and other telecom operators. We have integrated this entire network, and we run it on a fully managed model for a period of 7 years. So with that network falling in place, we would have a little over 88,000 in the network endpoints that we manage and maintain today. So I did mention about the global assets as well in terms of our POPs and our POP strength, our landing station, our core domestic strength, and the business efficiency. And I think that's a critical area that we need to look at in terms of of multiple years, over a decade of years of expertise in terms of managing IP networks, and by far one of the largest and the long-standing IP MPLS player in the country. So That's what I had for you all as far as this session on WAN transformation is concerned. I would actually like to take more queries and explain finer details if required, because I wanted to very largely touch upon what we mean by WAN transformation and what is it that enterprises are largely looking forward these days. And I'd love to take questions here if that is okay with you all.